Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is MiAh the King, and I told my wife that she should embrace her mistakes. So, she gave me a hug. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Frostpunk 2, a sequel to the highly acclaimed Frostpunk 1. Now, I did play the first game, never finished it as, well, I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was too hard, but surely that won't happen again, right? Anyway, I was still excited to check this one out, as the first one, to me at least, was still really cool and interesting and pretty well designed if I recall correctly, so one can only hope that its sequel will be as well. Developed and published by 11-Bit Studios, released not in early access, and selling for $45. So then, what is this game anyway? Well, I don't really know the story from the first game, so I'm not even going to try to connect them, but basically in this game, the old leader of the last surviving city of people in the world, ended by winter, died. Now you are the new steward, and you have to run the city without being cast aside or everyone dying from the various strenuous perils of this new unforgiving world. So, let's get started. First up, as always, is the positives. So the very first positive point for me was the overall production value, which you could tell from the get-go was awesome. I mean, from the moment I was staring at the title screen and hitting that new game button to the well-designed and well-placed cutscene, and it only grew larger from there. They just didn't miss a beat, and as I continue going on about the positives, you'll see what I mean. Next up, goes along with the last one, and that's the graphics. The game looks phenomenal. I mean, the level of detail they put in here with the realistic shaders and contrasting colors, the specifics when you zoom in, the real in-depth nature of the detail they put into every little faucet here is just intense. I mean, the lighting is great, the graphical design is great, the choices here are great, the shadows are great, the animations are great, like the game is just great. It looks freaking awesome all around. Next up for the positives is the sound design. Now the music, for me at least, could have been a bit better, but it's not awful. It's just kind of forgettable. In my opinion, it fits and it works at times, but for the most part, I just kind of forgot it was there. There have been some games where the soundtrack was so good, my body got tingles from the epicness that I was hearing, but that's not really here, unfortunately. The voice acting present in the game, however, was really well done.
A generation ago, we fled the crumbling British Empire.
So, yeah, and the voice acting throughout the game is of this high-level quality, which was really nice. Then you've got the sound effects, and despite sounding realistic and really good, it also fit the theme. And I know what you're wondering, how can a sound effect fit a theme? Well, they did it here. Think about it, you're living in a frozen nightmare at the end of the world, and somehow they managed to add this frozen tinge to every single sound effect. Like, it was glorious. It sounded exactly as you would expect it to sound in this scenario, in this setting. Next up for the positives is the gameplay. So how can I explain this simply without wasting 20 minutes just going on and on about the gameplay? It's a survival city builder? No. It's a really complicated city builder? Meh. I can't really describe it briefly. Look, it's a city management game that takes place in a frozen nightmare, okay? You build districts that serve certain functions for your people, like a housing district, a food district, an extraction district, which is used to extract materials from basically junk that's lying around from the old world, and each one serves an obvious function. Your city is constantly growing and facing new hardships and problems, and it's your job to fix them and to continue managing and run the city. You have to assign ice scrapers to scrape away the ice so you can build your districts, and then you've got to have enough fuel to keep your giant unrealistic heater going so your city doesn't freeze. There's a research tree where you can research new things like newer buildings or laws or policies, which leads me to the next cool gameplay component. They have a council building. See, in this game you have factions of people under you who represent the people. You need to stay on their good side so that when you propose a new law, which you can do through this council building, you want them to be able to, which will help the efficiency of your city, you want them to vote for it and to agree for it. And yes, you do actually get to see all this voting process, which I thought was just really cool.
Hear ye, the proposed law.
See, that was pretty cool. Now, like seeing that whenever you go into sign a new law or a new policy that all of your people have to adhere to was just a really cool thing that a lot of games just would not, a lot of developers and games out there just would not put the time or the dedication into giving you that. They would just be like, oh, well, here's a little menu screen, click it, and then boom, here's your benefit. But no, here you've actually got to zoom in, you got a council chamber, you got voice acting. Like, I love it. But that's not all. Along with the maintaining your city's needs and expanding outward, assigning new laws and playing politics, you can also send out expedition teams into the far reaches of the land to explore and find new things. Maybe some survivors to take back to join your city, maybe some lost new technology, maybe a more renewable fuel source for your massive unrealistic heater. Who knows? But be careful because exploring out there can be dangerous and you can get your people killed, which wouldn't look too good, and you got to keep your people happy or they'll depose you. Look, it's impossible for me to go over every single detail of the gameplay because it would take a 20-minute long video, and I ain't got that kind of time. It's just the gameplay here is super in-depth and super complicated. So think of it this way. After everything you've heard from me, that's only about half of what's here, and that's only half of the explanation of everything that's here. Alright? Alright. Okay, so on to the next positive point, the stability. Despite just being released, I didn't witness a single glitch or bug or error in my gameplay. No frame rate dropping, no glitches or clipping, no crashes or freezing. The game ran incredibly smooth, which is always a nice touch and helps you immerse yourself fully so you can actually learn to play and learn to have fun with this new game in front of you. And let's go ahead and mention the user interface too while we're at it. Some people might look at this whole UI here and think it's really complicated and needlessly bunched together, but I actually don't. Surprisingly, I thought the UI, though confusing at first glance, is actually organized really well, making it easier to navigate and understand what you're looking for or what you're looking at. And there are tons of tooltip pop-up bubbles for almost everything, which also really helps you to understand what you're looking at and what you're trying to do and how to navigate. Alright, so that's all the positives that I got to say about the game. Now we're going to go on to the negatives. But before that, I would like to humbly request something of you all. If you find my video entertaining or at the very least informative, then why don't you consider supporting its growth? Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and spread the word of my channel online. I'm still a smaller channel, but I'm actually still growing despite being fairly unknown. So if I could get some more support from all you lovely people out there, then I'd really appreciate it and it would really help me grow. So yeah, please consider doing that. Thank you. Also, if you hear any meowing in the background, I apologize. My cat decided to come in and say hello today. Now then, on to the negatives that I got here. The first negative for me is a personal pet peeve, and it was the tutorial. I think that the tutorial here is pretty bogus. I mean, the first time playing their tutorial level, I failed it because, well, the game just didn't tell me everything I needed to know, and this is not exactly a game that you can just jump right into. Overall, I thought it was going to be good in the beginning because it was doing it like all good tutorials should, where they're like, do this, and they're telling you about it while you're doing it, but then suddenly it just kind of cut out and then expected you to read these long-winded pages of paragraphs of information to learn what you need. Now, it's not the worst. It could have been far, far worse. At least the tutorial doesn't use too many words and doesn't try to sound smarter than it is, so I was still able to figure out mostly how to play the game, but overall, I hate tutorials that make me study like I'm in school again. If I wanted to do that, I'd just go back to school. Next up for the negatives is another personal preference. I think $45 is a lot of money. I'm not sure if the game is worth that much, so the next negative is the price tag. How much is it worth? I'm not sure. It's got great voice acting, great graphics, great game design, and everything else, so I don't know, but for some reason that $45 is just not working for me. I mean, it's a lot of money to ask people to spend nowadays, and I mean, their first game is only $30, and it's on sale right now for $3. Like, no, seriously, go check it out. I'm going to put it right here at the bottom of the screen. Look, that Frostpunk, the first one, it's selling for only $3. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just my poor guy vision that's blinding me, but $45 just seems like a lot of money for this kind of game. And that's really all I have to say negatively about the game, and those weren't even that bad. Like, those were me nitpicking. I mean, maybe it's because I just didn't play the first game, because I've read some people online complaining that this game isn't like the first one, which I don't even think can be considered a bad thing. Games adapt and change over time, and sequels do so even more. So I wouldn't expect the same game twice, because that would actually piss people off. If you want more Frostpunk 1, then just go replay that game. But overall, I think this game is pretty damn awesome. I was enthralled with the gameplay, I was addicted to the mechanics, I couldn't look away from the amazing graphics, and the sound design overall was amazing. I was struggling to find negative things to say about the game, and as I'm sure a lot of other people out there will as well, because it's just so well designed. There's very little you could say about it that's really bad you could point out in its design. Sure, it's a bit pricey, and I personally don't like the price tag, but the game design as a whole is freaking awesome. So if you're a big city builder / survival game fan, or if you're a fan of the first game, then I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to think about buying this game and checking it out. It's designed really well, it works really well, and even though I disagree with the price tag, I'd still say that I don't feel like you're getting ripped off here. So yeah, nothing more to say. If you got the money and you liked what you saw, then it's a good game. It's a great game. I would highly encourage you to go check it out. Alright everybody? Alright, so that's all the time I got for today. Thanks so much for watching, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around to the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.